welcome. Run it. Everybody, let's go. And with that said, welcome back, everybody. This is the Attitude for Gratitude Weekly podcast. And this is Tim, your host. I've always like saying the hostess with the mostest, but that's garbage. So we're going to get right into it. Anybody out there struggling, please, I implore you to reach out. You are worth the fight. You see it going across the bottom of the screen right now if you're watching it. It says own your recovery. Own your life. Fight for yourself. Fight for your life. You deserve your happiness. We talk about this all the time. Like, I have so many different guests that come in this show, and all I do is I basically just bug them to tell me their story. One way, shape, or form, we're talking about someone's journey to that finish line of happiness or another way. We talk about the way it used to be, and for a lot of us, it just wasn't happening. It wasn't working. So we turned to this new life of recovery. And I go down that rabbit hole just for the simple fact to tell everyone, like, if you're struggling, you can reach out to me personally. Reach out on this message board. Use this platform to get some help. If you need some help, reach out. It's not always comfortable to ask for help. It's not always comfortable to feel like you should have it under control, but you don't. So, like, I'll be the first. I'll tell you, like, I couldn't figure it out on my own. I didn't know what to do. I had to get some help. And what that looked like is Googling. At the time, I had no one in my life that was in recovery, so I Googled how to get clean, how to get off heroin, and I followed the steps. I don't know. We'll have a show where I go over my whole song and dance of how I got to where I'm at, but basically what I'm trying to say is if you're struggling, please just reach out. I'll put, you know what? I'm going to put my number up here right now, so if you're not comfortable using this message board, text me directly, and that's okay. I might not get right back to you, or like, of course, right now we're doing a show, and you can text me questions or comments or whatever you want that you don't want to go on the message board. Text me directly. I've got my phone in front of me because usually I have one earbud in while listening to the show and trying to do this, but I typically don't do it for long because there's a 5-second delay, and it's not good. It's just not good to hear me fumbling over my words. 9942. So there we go. I put my number up. Reach out to me directly if you're not comfortable utilizing this message board for other people in recovery. There's YouTube. We have 2 different Facebook channels, and then other people that open their own streams. That's a whole nother platform style. I don't know. I'm not wording it right, but there's so many different avenues on this. First and foremost, come on down to 2218. That's where I'm doing this podcast from, is 2218 First Avenue South. It's the world's longest running Al-Anon. I mean, there's a reason it's been going on this long. And the recovery community is in the volunteers. That's a huge thing here. We had a show a few weeks back with some volunteers on, and like I've always said, it's the grease that keeps the wheels spinning here at 2218. We've got people that are like cleaning up the joint and like greeting people at the front door and picking up cigarette butts and planting flowers and upkeeping the yard and the parking lot. They're all volunteers. No one's doing this to get paid. If you've got community service hours, or you know someone who does and they're trying to look at getting those hours fulfilled, that's another form they can do that. Come on down here and they can sign hours for any type of community service stuff. Real quick, the Al-Anon, they have a vision statement, and what the vision statement is to be the premier Al-Anon clubhouse, serving the community by offering support, strength, and hope to those seeking recovery and for their families. Our value is recovery, wellness, inclusiveness, and innovation. We utilize any form, shape, whatever it looks like. We get after it to try to find our happiness. And like I said, I went on and on about what it looks like for me. What I'm going to tell you guys about is some of the meetings. We got some newer meetings going on here at 2218 right now. every Friday night at 8 p.m. You can come on down here, and I'm going to try to get this right. It's an open meeting, an AA open meeting. It's LGBTQ plus meeting. Everyone's welcome. Let me just put that umbrella statement out there that anyone and however you identify, they're welcoming. They just started this a few weeks ago. It's called Friends of Dorothy. It's a meeting taking place here, I believe in the. Oh shoot, that's the one thing I don't have in front of me is the room it's in. I believe it's in the auditorium or in the. Ooh, front desk will guide you right to it. And on the wall, right when you walk in, they have a meeting list, and it'll tell you what room it's in. I believe it's down in the back side of the auditorium or up in one of the rooms. I'll get that information before the night's over. But it's called Friends of Dorothy's, and it's open to whomever would like to come. If you're not comfortable in a men's meeting, or you're not comfortable in a women's meeting, or you just don't feel like you fit in at other conventional meetings, come check this one out. It's a different. It's different, and it's something that they're trying to get going, and come check it out. That's tonight at 8 o'clock. So on Saturdays, we do a Saturday night speaker meeting. Come tell your recovery story. There's a fill-up sheet at the front desk. This is also a Zoom meeting, so if you're not comfortable coming to the in-person one, or you're on the road, or you're under the weather and you want to still check it out, you can go to Zoom. I don't know. It's a long one. You know what? Just message me and I will get you the information. It's got like 50 characters in it, and I'm not going to put all that up. So it is a Zoom meeting, but also it's an in-person meeting. So the requirements is a 1-year sobriety, have a sponsor, service work experience. How will your experience, strength, and hope help a struggling alcoholic or addict? Those are the suggested requirements to come down here and tell your story on Saturday night. We do have, I think it's like every other, we have 2 of the 4 weeks for the most part filled, and then these are scheduled speakers, and then moving forward, like on the other weeks that aren't scheduled, they're ones that people come fill up their names, and they choose people to speak. So the next one that we do have confirmed is Chrissy K from Squad 61. She'll be speaking April 1st. And I believe there's someone that came and filled up and signed up their name that's going to be speaking tomorrow night. I don't have that information, so come check it out. Find out for yourself. Every day at noon, there's a meeting here. It came over from, I think the, you know what? That really doesn't matter. I think it was a gratitude group or something, but every noon every day at noon there's a meeting. It's called High Noon. It's an open mixed AA everyday noon meeting. Come check that out. We have meetings every morning, every day, midday, every evening. Every evening at 6:30, there's a Narcotics Anonymous meeting here at 2218 every single day. So if you're looking for an NA meeting, come check that out. Every single day they have one here. So come check it out. Other than that, there's so many different fellowships that happen here at the club, and more to come. But morning to night, there's every single day there's meetings going on here at 2218. So come check it out. Again, if you would like to be a volunteer, come on down at the front desk. Who's ever working the front desk can talk to you about becoming a volunteer. There is a sheet you can fill out to become a volunteer, and it's rewarding, to say the least. Like I said, we had a show. We've had multiple volunteers. I know Jen was on the show, 6-7 months ago, and she spoke about how she does all the plants and all the flowers and the window flowers, and I don't want to torture everything she does. So she's going to be back on the show here, I believe, next month, and because I think her and Brad B were on this show right before the Ride for the night. Matter of fact, it was the weekend of Ride for Recovery, and we're having technical issues, of course. But she'll be back on and talk to you guys about volunteer work here at the club, too. The big announcement, as you will hear every week moving forward, is the Ride for Recovery. This is the big nickel the 5th annual Ride for Recovery. I'm going to go over quite a bit of details about the ride, so check it out. I see our buddy, hey John Boy. Yeah, when you get here, just come on up. He's our guest tonight. We had two. I don't know. You know what? We might have two guests. The other one was on the fence. Something's going on, and I didn't listen to the excuses. I just said, if you can make it, make it. If not, the audience is gonna get sick of hearing me blabbing on. So, well, whoever gets here first, we're gonna open it up with them. But until then, I'm going to talk to you guys, and I am proficient at talking. So, sober fundraiser for 2218 Alano Society, Minneapolis, the world's longest continually running Alano. This is the 5th annual Ride for Recovery, and it's an all-day music jam, Saturday, June 24th at this year, 2023. Bear with me as I'm going to just go through all the details of it. I'm going to go off script right now and explain. I own motorcycles. I ride motorcycles. I go in group rides. But because I do this podcast, every year I go to the Ride for Recovery, but I don't go on the ride. And I don't ride my motorcycle with the group because I'm doing the podcast. What I'm getting at is the morning portion of that day is a big, long ride. Well, not too long, but it's a ride. It's a group ride. And then it's an all-day event here at the club. You do not need to be a motorcycle rider to be part of that day. It's a fun, family-filled event. It's a clean, sober event. So I just want to make that real clear before I even get going on all the details, because a lot of people, for some reason, think you need to be a motorcycle rider to be part of this. And it couldn't be further from the truth. It's more of an all-day carnival type jamboree with some motorcycle stuff going on with it. So join us in the sport to help the doors open. The day looks like this. At 8 a.m. at the St. Paul Harley-Davidson, there will be a pancake breakfast and registrations with the $5 donation for breakfast. Brad will be killing it with his pancakes and sausage. That's what he did last year. I'm pretty sure we're doing the same this year. But either way, it's some good eats, and you can't get enough. Like, as much as you want to eat, that's there for the eating. Again, that's from 8 to 9:30 a.m., pancake breakfast and registrations. At 9:45 a.m., there will be a mandatory rider meeting. All riders and passengers must participate in that. It's safety. They just go over some of the road guard stuff, the safety stuff, the things that we need to be aware of while out on a ride like that. And it's not super long. It's not super crazy details. It's some basic stuff. And then we say a little prayer over our motorcycles and our riders for safety and, that everything goes smoothly. And then kickstands up at 10. And I'll be out there during that time from about probably 8 to 9-ish, or from 9 to 10-ish. I'm not sure yet what we're going to do. I want to be there when the motorcycles pull out. That's just such a beautiful thing, watching hundreds of bikes pull out. So I'll be there for at least an hour, and I'll be pulling different riders on the show and passengers and people from St. Paul Harley come on the show. It's a pretty entertaining day for the podcast, so check out the podcast that day as well. It's one of the only times we don't stay on script with it being a Friday night show. At 12 p.m., around that time, all the motorcycles start arriving back at the club here. You know what? I'm not 100% sure if it's exactly at 12 or if it was 1 o'clock. It's somewhere in there, but I know it's a big event that when they all pull in, we have all the roads blocked off, because we do have road guards that safety comes first, and they're there to help like block intersections and get things going like that. What up, big brother? Jay Willis. Shout out. So at 12 p.m., the festivities kick off, meaning the party begins. We have so many sponsors and so many different treats and fun eventful things, music all day long, which I'm going to talk about. Lucy Liners at 12 p.m. 1 p.m. we have the silent auction begins. So the whole annex and auditorium is being utilized for that day. So like 60 to 70% of that has these tables set up with all these different I don't want to say prizes, the silent auction stuff. And they range from anything from these homemade Harley blankets, quilts, to like sweet ass tanks and paintings and like weekend getaways and like dinners and just all gift baskets up the yin yang. Like there's so many different things. I don't know. I think there was a couple hundred different items, and it's silent auction stuff. Meaning there's a sheet of paper out there, and there's a dollar amount. You put what you're willing to pay for it, and then people come by and outbid you, or you win the thing. And I got this. Brad B had a basket last year. It's I don't even know if I want to say it on air. It's a shop. It has a really cool name. And, it's Asshole Garage. And that's the name of this place. And it's a legit spot, but they have some really cool, like, button-up, sleeveless shirts. And mine got embroidered. I won the bid. It was like $10, but these shirts are like $70. So, like, that's a great example of getting a great deal at these. I was willing to go to 100 because all this money just goes to the club, and it helps to keep the doors open. So I won that one, and I'll wear it next at the ride this year. But it's cool. It has my name on it, and it's like like a mechanics type of shirt, but it's thick, good material, and it has a really cool scene on the back. And like I said, the name of it's Asshole Garage. So it's cool. Every time I wear it, at least a half dozen people are asking me about it, and I enjoy telling them the story behind it. Like, yeah, I won this in a silent auction. It's just a really cool event, and it's just a great experience to be part of something like that. I know. I say so much garbage on here, and I'm worried about saying Asshole Garage. So it's because usually I warm up into being a trash mouth or a potty mouth. But don't worry, John will be here soon, and we will hear all sorts of stuff. So again, silent auction starts at 1 p.m. And come on down, check it out. Like I said, I also won a weekend getaway for, I think I paid $100, and it was like a $700 hotel stay up on the North Shore. So there's all sorts of cool stuff like that. Then Happy Wednesday will be playing at 3 p.m. on the center stage. We have a really cool setup and professional. It's a great situation with the music. So come check that out. We have a professional setup with speakers and lights, all that good stuff. And at 5 p.m., Vic, the ever famous Southern boy, Vic, will be in here cooking up some barbecue. The barbecue begins at 5 p.m. And last year, I think, like, brats and burgers and coleslaw, like, they have the whole great spread. That comes included with the wristbands. But, like, I don't know, I better talk to him first. I know last year, like, we brought him a rack of ribs, and he cooked them for us, and they were so good. Also at 5 p.m., Zoo Factor takes the stage. They're, like, famous. Like, that's a big name band. So if you want to come check out, they do some cover music. They do some of their own music. It's just Mike's amazing. Like, their band is great. So check that out. Google them, Zoo Factor. It's Zeew Factor, Factor. Check them out. I'm not sure if they're all in recovery, but I know Mike is, and they do great things. They were at the last event that we just had for all the volunteers as well. And then at 6:30, we have a featured speaker that'll be taking the center stage as well. And in the past, we've done like hour speakers, but it's not that. I believe we're doing like a half-hour speaker. And then at 8:30, All-Star Jam plays. And then at 8:30 as well, the silent auction closes. And there is raffles, and I'm not sure if we're doing a 50-50 or not, but also we have that going on. At 9 p.m., the auction, the raffle, and drawings are announced. Somewhere in the middle there's all sorts of stuff, bean bags, and we had a dunk tank last year. We're having a dunk tank again this year. It was Paul Birch from Will Work for Recovery, Bob Schill, Curtis Miller, Brad B., and me. And we had this contest, like, who could sell the most tickets to people, because we'd sell tickets to dunk us. And we raised tons of money. I think Alicia told me it was somewhere north of $800 just for the dunk tank. So come on down and try out your pitching arm. Let's see what you got. this time I'm not going to go last in that water with 5 grown men that dunked in there before me. Gross. I did come in last place, but I know I brought in like over $100 and some, so I won a bottle of syrup. I don't know what that means, but that's what 5th place got, was a bottle of syrup. Whoop-de-doo. But it's being part of it and participating. That was the prize for me. Admission, wristbands, $20 in advance or $25 day of the event. Donations include ride, dinner, dance, and silent auction. Additional individual items will be sold separately, including our famous root beer floats. Yes, we have, and like Johnny Pops, there's so much stuff going on there. I'm about to read kind of a longer write-up about all this, but this is on the main flyer. So the ride starts at St. Paul Harley Davidson at 2899 Hudson River Road, or Hudson RIVD. I think River Road, St. Paul, Minnesota, 55128. Ride ends, music and barbecue all day bash, 2218 First Avenue South. Whoo, breath. Okay, now I'm going to read To Whom It May Concern. The Alano Society Minneapolis, Inc. is a nonprofit organization that exists to administer and support the Alano building and property located at 2218 First Avenue South, Minneapolis. The building has been an institution of recovery since 1942. Again, the longest continually running Alano in the world. The world. You know what, guys, in the world. I'm learning other stuff. The Alano Society operates solely by volunteers and donations. Each year, there are several fundraisers and community events, such as the 2218 Birthday Bash for Pat Cronin, the founder, annual 2218 Ride for Recovery, Alano Building fundraiser, Give to the Max, and the Spring Forward. That all enables us to raise funds to continue to provide service to help alcoholics and addicts and their families begin and maintain recovery. With the help of donors and grants, we are continuing the legacy of our club that will last for generations to come. Every dollar given to the club will go to the growth and the preservation of the beacon of this beacon of recovery. Guided by the principles of AA and uplifted by the generosity of donors, together we will walk the road to recovery, which calls us and honors our collaborative role as stewards of the Alano Society of Minneapolis, the birthplace of recovery in the Midwest. I'm such a dork. Have I lost everyone yet with my little my sound effects? Okay. We are currently seeking sponsorship opportunities, donations for, all right, here's the important one. So listen up. We are currently seeking sponsorship opportunities, donations for our silent auction, and donations for our raffle at our 5th annual Ride for Recovery to be held June 24th. Not only does your donation go to the life-saving cause, but it also makes Alano Society of Minneapolis eligible for bonus grants. If you have questions regarding our event, please feel free to contact Heather Dale, the co-chair, by phone at 407-461-7858 or email her at Heather. You know what? I'll just get this stuff posted up. The 2218 Alano Society of Minneapolis is a 501(c)(3). It's a nonprofit organization located at 2218 First Avenue South. Our nonprofit tax number ID is EIN 41-06290224 ES 25216. And your gift is tax deductible to the extent provided by the law. Thank you for your support. Oh my gosh, you guys. Thank you for your patience and listening to me blab on about that. But it's not really blabbing on because it's one of the best things I do all year, and it's a blast to be able to talk about it. All right, 25 minutes of me advertising for the club. Again, 2218 First Avenue South, Alano Society of Minneapolis, world's longest running Alano. We have meetings from night till, if you become a member of this club, there's some other things that come with that. I know if you become a member and pay it in advance for 6 months, and I think the monthly Membership is like $15 to $20 or something, $25. So it's not too crazy. And what that does is, like, if you pay 6 months, you get like a commemorative coin. There's benefits to it. You can also have access to the building on off hours, and to be able to go to a room with like your sponsees, or a place to go read or what have you. Like, you can utilize this place and make it your place. So those are the benefits of becoming a member of this club. And when we have Dan Jones on the show, he will talk to you guys about membership as well as the Ride for Recovery, because he's really involved with the Ride for Recovery, and I asked him to come on the show to talk about it. Next week, we're going to have Rick and Jesse from the 4-Step Workshop, our monthly returning guests. We've had them on from basically our first month of this show 3 years back to now. We haven't skipped a single month without them being on once a month. Tonight, Elena is at the fights where last week we had a guest on, Jacob J, who is a fighter. He's in, it's not Golden Gloves, but it's something to those effects. It's some type of boxing, wrestling, MMA. I think they're doing all three things. And over in Fridley tonight, he's fighting. So I know Elena went there to support him. So that's where she's at tonight. And other than that, boys and girls, we are going to talk about recovery tonight. John's going to be here in a few minutes, and I'm going to keep after it. But we kind of got away from this. What we used to do at the top of the hour back when Tad was here was we would try to escape with some humor. So we're going to try a few little corny-ass jokes real quick. How do you make holy water? You boil the hell out of it. Huh? How do you find Will Smith in the snow? You look for Fresh Prince. We thought there was going to be something about slapping going on there. Welcome to Plastic Surgery Anonymous. I see we have a lot of new faces in this week. All right, dude, I can't go much further than that. I'm done with these. These are corny as hell, and I'm not going to go any further on that. What we are going to do is we're going to talk about willingness. Until John gets here, I was asked to talk about my willingness. And what that means, you know what, realistically, I should throw up a definition. There is open-minded, honesty, willingness. There's some key things they talk about when you get into recovery. And a lot of times on the show, even, like, a lot of those questions get brought up. And we ask our guests, like, what does that look like for you? Or what does that mean to you? Like, being honest. I guess we can go over them all. Like, being honest is something that I was not prior to recovery. And a lot of that had to do with my use. Like, everything revolved around me getting pretty much fucked up all the time. So the people I cared about, and the people who cared about me, more or less, the people who were in my life and that surrounded me, were people that didn't want to see me throw my life away, or didn't want to see me, in the gutter. So I would lie, and I would lie, even if it was so bold. Basically, with a needle hanging out of my arm, I'd say there wasn't a needle hanging out of my arm. Like when you're cheating on someone and the girl's in your car, you're like, nope, there's no girl in my car. It's things like that. As bad as that. It would be bold-faced lies. And that's what it looked like. And it looked like that for so long prior to getting into recovery that, like, lying became the norm. Like, honesty, there was no such thing as honesty. So when I got into recovery, like, being told that I needed to be honest, it was hard because lying was just normal. I didn't tell the truth. There was no truth about anything I did, and it was basically this is like second nature. I'd be in the middle of conversations and lying and believing my lies, but the problem with it was I didn't remember half the lies I told. So when there's people in your life who care about you, and they're asking like what you're up to or what are you doing, or like on Christmas when I'm like, I got to go out to my truck and a car pulls up. You know what I'm saying? Like, I would tell them they didn't see a car pull up. Bold-faced lie. Just act like that. And that's what life looked like for a long time. So getting into the rooms and getting a sponsor and starting to work on Tim. That's why we talk about this thing. Like, the drink was but a symptom. The drugs were but a symptom, meaning those weren't, I mean, I lied and cheated and stole and robbed and connived my way into getting my drugs. So it's hard. It can get misconstrued to think that, yeah, drugs were the problem. No. The guy making the choice to do all that shit, that was the problem. Me, my thinking, my actions, that was the problem. It didn't make sense to me for a few years into recovery. We talked about that drunken horse thief. I go into this all the time. Like, you take away the booze, he's still a horse thief. We got to look at the core issues here. And for me, I was the problem. What I chose to do was the problem. Like, I don't know. I'm trying to come at this at so many different angles so it makes sense to people. But getting high. Let's just say that. I don't need to talk about needles in my arm or meth pipes or bottles of booze, but getting sideways. We'll just say that. Getting sideways was the result of my thinking. Like, I'm the one who chose to do this shit. Like, to make the choices to sit and keep getting sideways was the problem. That was me. So I had to work on that. Like, I had to set down the drugs. I had to set down the alcohol to be able to even grab a mirror and look at me. I was never going to be able to just take an honest look at myself while I was out here getting high. I just couldn't. So having to set down the drugs was the start. I had to set the drugs down. I couldn't do no inward looking, or I couldn't have any growth while I was busy still getting high. That's just what it was. So to be able to say drugs and alcohol were but a symptom, it's clear to me, because if I didn't have the right mind on me, I was making poor choices, and the poor choices were that was choices. That's like the umbrella statement of all that stuff I was doing. The robbing, the cheating, the stealing, the drugs, the using, the abusing, the cheat, all that stuff. So it was easy to make up those choices when my head was on crooked, which it always was. So once my head wasn't so clouded, I could start looking at me and why did I feel I had to sit and make all these choices like that or lie all the time? It's just something I had to do, and that meant taking a look at me, doing some inventory, taking care of some character defects, like having a sponsor to work these steps with and start going over some inventory and start making some amends and financial amends and living amends and all these things that kept me high for a long time. Like, instead of facing some issues, it was easier just to go get fucked up. Like, that's just what it was for way too long. That's why it makes sense, like, to do a thorough fifth step, to get this shit off your chest. Because the longer I would stay having this on my chest, it was a no-brainer. Like, the guilt or the shame of whatever it was, it would go bye-bye when I would, or I think it would go bye-bye when I would pick up. So let's get back to the core of this, like the willingness that I started talking about. For me, like, the willingness meant to do something I had never been ready to do. I was never willing to stop. I just wasn't. Like, that wasn't what I was. And I used to make jokes that you people in AA are all quitters. You people in NA are quitters. It was a joke I made, but I really felt that way. Like, you can't stop. That's on you. See, I always thought I could until I couldn't. Like, I thought I could stop until I couldn't stop. It's what it was. And that was like where the willingness came in for me to be able to stop. So what we're going to do now is we're going to get an ETA on John, because I'm sick of hearing myself talk, and I'm in here solo right now. So hang on a sec. We're going to call him right on air, and he's probably listening. What's your ETA, buddy?
I'm just pulling in.
All right. Better than pulling out. Come up to room 24, brother. All right, cool. So you guys heard me blab on and on long enough about willing about everything, but like end of the day, that's what I wanted to make clear is like I eventually figured out that I was the one making these choices. I was. No one forced me to go drink. No one forced me to go drug. I was raised with loves and hugs and kisses and attaboys and whatever. Like I was treated right. And I made choices. No one else. I made those choices. So I couldn't blame no one else. And sure, in the horrors of my addiction, I wanted to blame other people for it, or I wanted to blame situations why I needed to still do this or that. It was that bondage of self we talk about too, selfishness. I would show up to events for family functions and make it about me, whether I knew it or not at the time. That's what I was doing. Like if I was there for someone's birthday or someone's whatever. If I showed up high and all I cared about was getting high, that was me being selfish. That was me only worrying about me. Like, and that's what this shit did for me. Like it turned me into someone I really don't want to be. I didn't know I didn't want to be that until I got clean. I didn't realize there was a better way. I saw it here and there, but like I didn't realize there was another way. And having the few seeds planted in my life, like my cousin Mark that's been on the show, and like my sponsor Ron and other people, there was really no one I knew in recovery. Look at the birthday boy. Open up your shirt. I know that I can read this on there. Ask me about my Ninja Digest. Oh, my Ninja Disguise. Oh, that's one of those shirts. I saw it. That's dope. I like that. That's those ones. All right. Yeah, you were listening earlier, right? Yep. Did I have an echo when I did that, when I tried doing some noise effects? You could hear that in there, huh? Oh, yeah. Was it all distorted?
Not really.
All right. Tell me when you're sounding sounding louder. You're good there?
Yep.
All right. I can take a breath. Who are you, dude?
I'm John Sheehy, and I'm an addict.
Welcome, John Sheehy, the addict.
What's going on, Timmy?
You heard, didn't know, but over here just diarrhea of the mouth. I meant to reach out to you earlier in the week, and there might be someone else showing up, but I'm going to text them in a minute if they ain't here in 22 minutes and 86 them. So, here's the thing, John. I love you.
Love you,
I saw
buddy.
you at New Hope, the one-year banquet, and I saw you at multiple campfire meetings, and I seen you at a bonfire meeting like 3 years ago, and I've seen you in the rooms of recovery. I've heard you share your story. I've seen you around. I know you. I text you. I love you. I'm proud of you. How long are you celebrating today?
4 years.
Of what?
Continuous sobriety. Yeah.
Congratulations, John.
Yeah,
hey,
this is
let's make it uncomfortable. Congratulations.
You're welcome.
I fucking love you.
I fucking love you, buddy.
I'm proud of you, dude.
You want a kiss?
Blow me one. So, I said blow me a kiss, not blow. All right, dude. Yes, I want you to tell me about it.
Well, this is the longest since I've been 9 years old that I've been sober in my entire life.
We've had you on the show once or twice, and I know I've dug into you about stuff. Are you comfortable talking about your story?
Oh yeah.
Break it up.
Let's.
However, come on.
Let's. I want to touch on the willingness that you were talking about.
Willingness.
So
after it.
I think willingness is. I mean, we talk about honesty, open-minded, and willingness. I think willingness is the most important of all of them because you have to be willing to be honest. You have to be willing to be open-minded. You have to be willing to, like you kind of touched on it, to dig deep to the root of the problem. It's not just getting high was, like you say, but I'd say it a little differently.
I don't believe but a symptom. I still don't know what that means to say it.
You said it with the horse thing. If you got a drunken asshole and you take away the booze, what do you got? You still got an asshole. Yes. I still, just because, and I'm sure it's true with you too, just because we're sober doesn't mean I'm a good person. I still think of ways to lie, cheat, manipulate. I may not have to go out and steal shit anymore because
But in early recovery, like for the first few months, I was still stealing. Like I was still doing shit because I didn't get taught nothing different yet. Mm-hmm. I knew I didn't. Like I said, getting your head clear enough, I just had way more guilt and shame over doing some of that nasty shit because I knew it was still wrong. But you're absolutely right, dude. Like we can, what people say, living sober, or you could still be sick as hell, sick as fuck while you're sober.
You know, completely, because you haven't fixed nothing. You haven't changed anything. If all you changed is taking away the drugs and alcohol, you're still the same person. You know,
You're
that's
still that
why
person that made the choices to pick up drugs and alcohol.
that's why moving to a different state didn't get you sober. That's why trying to do this, trying to do that didn't keep you sober, because wherever you go, there you are. You know, but that willingness is super important, because there is a lot of things that are going to make you uncomfortable trying when you start working this program. You know, you talked a little bit about doing a thorough 4-step and 5th step. You know, you start getting into 8 and 9s and having to make amends with people. You got to be willing to go up to these people that you wronged however many times over however many years and be like, hey, you know, I fucked up. I realize I did, and I'm sorry, you know. And there's more to it than that, because for most of the people in our lives, I'm sorry doesn't hold any kind of depth and weight, because they've heard it so many
means nothing.
times. You know, I'm sorry is basically like a middle finger to the face, you know.
It really is, to people, especially ones that care about us and love us.
Because
Like,
they've heard it since, like I say, since I was 9 years old. Ever since I was a little kid, I'm sorry, you know? That's like me saying whatever. My mom used to tell me, she's like, you know, I hate it when you say whatever, because that's basically telling me to fuck off, blah, blah, blah. You know, and that was the God's honest truth, you know? And I'm sorry is not an apology. When you say I'm sorry, you're just trying to appease the situation, you know, so you can get back to whatever bullcrap you were doing. You know, you just want to get out of that awkward state. So willingness is huge, because there is a lot of things you got to be willing to do. And that's
like,
not
do you
easy.
think, like, not knowing, or I think if I remember your story, did you have multiple attempts at recovery before this 4 years?
Yes.
Okay, so like getting into recovery, like the first piece of, unless it's court ordered or whatever, but the first piece of real recovery is something that you have to portray some willingness. Like,
Yeah.
And no one forced you in the room, so you had to be willing to do it.
And anybody who's ever walked into an AA meeting or an NA meeting or any kind of recovery based anything shows a slight bit of willingness. You know, it doesn't matter if you're court ordered or you're only there because you're about to lose your family. You are showing a little bit of willingness, and that's all you need to begin with, is that little bit, and you kind of build on it from there.
When I think you and I both know a fellow by the name of John B. He's been on the show. I love this man.
My sponsor.
Is he?
Yep.
I thought so. I love when he speaks. He's the one guy that if I could have him as a co-host, I would. I'd have him on the show twice a month. He says this, like, when it comes to higher power stuff, he's like, if you're just willing to entertain the thought, that's all I ask.
That's all it
That's
takes.
That's like cracking the door.
Oh.
Willingness is like cracking the door. You worded it better. You're right. I believe you, or I agree with that. That willingness is probably one of the most important of those three things, because that's where it starts.
I got that from Johnny B.
But then again, look at you want to hear, like, not devil's advocate, but like a total circle around is like, you have to be honest with yourself to say you'd be willing.
But you have to be willing to be honest with yourself.
Yeah.
You know?
There you go. Yeah,
The willingness is where it all starts, because if you don't have the willingness, none of this is going to happen. And like I say, even if you're court ordered or whatever you're about to lose is what brings you in, that still shows a little bit of willingness.
Right.
Because how many times have you had a warrant and just said F it and took off?
Yeah.
And just
And I
after
say that
around
all the
until you
time.
hope until you don't get caught.
Even when you are in jail, you still have some choices. But unless you're locked up, you can do whatever you want, really.
Even being
Court ordered to go to an AA meeting, you don't have to go.
Even being locked up, how many times you sit in jail and think about how you're going to get high as soon as you get out?
Oh, dude.
You know, and you were high before you left the parking lot.
Yep.
How many times? You know,
Yep.
so
Yep.
that's
I agree with you. And
just because you're in jail and
yeah.
you're sober because you can't get high, and that's not even true. We all know you can get fucking high in jail.
Yeah, I did.
You know,
Shit.
so
I was buying
it's-
regurgitated psych meds from some dude.
It's you know, we do some dirty things regardless of where we are.
Yeah.
You know, so it is what it is.
So willingness is one of those deals also, like getting comfortable with being uncomfortable, or being okay with not being okay. One of those deals.
I like the getting uncomfortable with being uncomfortable, because if you're working a program, there's gonna be times you're gonna be uncomfortable, you know. And it's something you get used to, which is, think about it.
The
How
new
many
norm.
how many uncomfortable situations you put yourself in to get drugs? Meet me here. You don't know where here is. You're showing up at a house that looks like it should be condemned.
Life-threatening.
You walk in, there's people with guns, there's people with drugs, you don't know what's going to happen to you, but you did it anyway because you want to get high. You got to put I won't even say you have to put the same amount of willingness into getting high into your recovery. If you put a fraction of how willing and what you were willing to do into getting high into your recovery, it's going to work. Things are going to be all right because like I say, that it grows from there. If you show a little bit of willingness and keep putting the right foot forward, it will start to grow and grow and grow. I mean, you just got what, 5 years, 6 years? How different is your recovery between when you started till now?
It's night and day.
I'm
not the same like, all right, when I came into the rooms, I was someone. 2 months later, I was a total different person. A year after that, I was not even that same person at 2 months. Today, I'm no one. I don't even know who that guy was at year one. I don't.
What they talk about in our literature, more will be revealed. And as more is revealed, the better it gets. And it's all has to do with willingness. Because if you don't have that willingness to be honest, to be open-minded, to do the steps, to get uncomfortable and reach out to somebody when you're struggling or any of that stuff that we as addicts and alcoholics need to do, none of it's ever going to happen, Even in my situation, the first 3 years, 2.5, 3 years of my recovery, I was better than I was when I was using, but a lot of my insides in my head was fucking miserable.
Right. Speaking of that, let's kind of talk mental health stuff. Like, I say mental health. Like, have you dealt with? You just talked about your head messed up stuff. Like, have you dealt with mental health in recovery?
I'll put it to you like this. When I got my 3-year token, I didn't want to stand up and say anything because I didn't know what to say. I wasn't thinking about shooting myself, but the thoughts of, if my car breaks down on this train track, and I see a train coming, I'm not sure I'm going to get out of the car, and shit like that. And it's like, that's a fucked place to be. I was more depressed at 2.5 years sober than I ever was drinking. And it just because I didn't have my crutch, I didn't have my number to
go to.
Yeah, I didn't have what I thought I wanted to forget all that stuff, to numb all that shit. And you got to learn. It's willingness. You got to be willing to learn how to deal with those emotions and feelings and all that. Reality. And sometimes that shit sucks.
That's the type of stuff that I'd like for people to hear about. Like, you're at 2 years, 3 years in. Okay, you weren't thinking about starting a 9mm, but like you said, you weren't going to be bummed out if something terrible happened to you.
I wasn't. I don't know. It's kind of a weird thing because like part of me wanted to die, but I was scared to do it myself. So like I say, if my car got in an accident, I wouldn't be that bummed out.
That's a good way to say it. How you like if I got stuck on a train track, I don't know if I'd have got out of the car.
That's the best way I can think of describing it. I wasn't to a point where I was going to do something to end my own life, but if a situation arose where that was probably a good probability, like I say, if I got broke down on a train track in front of a train coming at me, I wasn't 100% sure I was going to get out and run away.
So now here's what I think is the most important to talk about after you share that is how did you get out of that? How did you come away from that? What did you do? How did it not be like that? Or is it still like that?
I started working a program.
So you were in these rooms for 2 years, just fellowshipping and going with the flow, basically?
Yep. And I just started working with Johnny B about a year ago. And since I started working a program, now I'm more considerate of my own life. I'm not trying to put myself in sketchy situations or, when I see shit like that, I try to avoid it instead of, let's just hit it head on and see what happens.
So how did you meed John? Was it Thursday night?
No, it was actually at Bob's at the campfire. And I went there. I had talked to a good friend of mine, Jordan. And, I kind of talked with her what was going on and blah, blah, blah. And, I need a sponsor. And that was like the whole reason I went to that meeting that night because I know there's a lot of good recovery and blah, blah, blah. I went there to find a sponsor. And at the end of the meeting, my friend grabbed me by my shirt, drug me over to him and was like, "You two need to talk."
Jordan did?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's
Yep.
her.
And we exchanged numbers, and he called me the next day, and we talked a little bit, and ever since then, things have been getting better. And
Yeah.
I'm starting to work on the insides. I got a lot. Like I say, life's not, and the fucked up part is like life's not bad right now. And just to be living a much better life than I was, and to still have that same mind frame of fuck it, isn't healthy. It's not a good place to be, because now I got all kinds of shit to lose that I care about. And it's a scary place to be.
That was you that I know I'm jumping all over, but you were the one who was on our show talking. Like, I want to bring up your kids. Do you care?
Yep. Go ahead.
Share about how it was with your kids while using and the way you felt about it versus now.
Me using, I hated my kids.
Come on, why? Like, people don't understand.
I won't say hated. Well, hated. Yeah, pretty much. I hated my kids because they got in the way of me getting high.
You thought you hated them.
Well, at the time I did.
You hated someone interrupting your use.
Yeah, they were an inconvenience. They were, I couldn't get high because I had to feed my kid, or I had to do this, or I had to do that with my kid. They were a big part of what stood between me and getting high, and that sucked.
Like, now looking back, I know at one point you shared like you felt like shit about it. Like,
oh yeah,
knowing that that's not how you should have felt.
Father's Day, birthdays, those are probably the days I drank or used the most, because I would feel bad.
Right.
Because I missed my kids. You get to the end of the day, you're running out of sack, or you're going to lay down because whatever reason, and all of a sudden life starts kind of sinking in, and you end up crying yourself to sleep because you're like, fuck, I know what I did today. This is probably what I should have done today,
Right. See, and that's what I mean. Like, we know.
Oh yeah, you're well aware of what you're doing.
Yeah.
But you numb it so much that you just don't care.
I related to like when my drug use got really bad. Like, there's a period of my life, like, I had a really good person in my life. Like, her daughter called me dad. Like, in the back of my mind, they were getting in the way of me getting high. Mm-hmm. In the back of my mind, I'm like, God, I know I got a good thing going here, but if I could just not have them in my life, I'd be free to use all I wanted. Like, every time you tell that story, it makes me think of that. Like, I knew I loved her. You knew you loved your kids.
Yep.
But they're just getting in the way of what I thought I really wanted to do. And matter, I did. I wanted to. Like, I can't lie to myself. But early recovery, like, you have them back in your life now, right?
Yeah.
Like, they call you dad. Times are good when you're with them.
Yep. They're still kind of, a pain in the ass at times, but...
Oh, so they're kids.
Oh, well, yeah, basically, and they're not even kids anymore. They're like small. Well, one's an adult. He's 21 going on 22. One will be 18 this year, and the other one will be 15 this year, and
Shit,
it's like...
yeah, you're old.
Yeah.
I forget.
You still got more gray than me, though, so...
Oh, yeah. Well,
and I got all my hair.
Dude, you know what? I'm still longer. So, let's see here. Wow. So now your kids, like, where did that, in early recovery, like, instantly for 3 years and 10 months ago, you were good with your kids? How long did that take, though, to repair that?
I'd say just...
Or was it ever broken?
Oh yeah. I avoided my kids for years. In the beginning, they were an inconvenience because they were in the way of my whole family, my kids, my wife, anybody that actually loved and cared about me, was in the way of me doing what I wanted to do. And it got to a point where my ex-wife, my oldest kid, pretty much cut me off. I pretty much just let him go to the wayside at a very young age because. That's what I was doing. Right. I got sober for a little while, met Shara. Well, I had met her during my use. We got sober. We had a kid. We got married, blah, blah, blah. We lived a life for a little while, and then I started using again, and then they started to become an inconvenience, and it got to a point where the guilt, the shame, the rules of, you can come over, but you can't get high. She lives literally 2 blocks away from Anoka County Jail. I couldn't make it 2 blocks. to come from jail, because every time I go to jail, I'd be on the phone with her. Oh, I love you. You know, you get that couple days of sobriety and all that stuff starts coming back in. Oh, I love you. I miss you guys. I'm never going to do this again, blah, blah, blah. I couldn't even make it 2 blocks without getting high. You know, that's literally all I had to do was walk 2 blocks, go see my kids. And I couldn't do it. You know, I'd get out of, she never knew what time I got out of jail. I'd get out of jail at like 6 in the morning or whenever they release you, you know, and I wouldn't show up there till 3 or 4 o'clock in the afternoon. And it's, you know, like I don't know, it's a horrible thing, but like now that's big reason why I was late is I went out to dinner with my mom, my dad, and you know, 2 of my kids.
Well, and I dumped this on you at 7:40 or
well,
7
you know?
o'clock. Yeah, no, I get it.
And it's like, but you say when I first came back. When I first came back, it was kind of weird because like I really didn't have any contact with my oldest son. That just happened in the last, I don't know, year and a half. Probably he moved up here from Missouri. The 2 that live with the 2 I have with my ex-wife, my middle child was, you know, he kind of jumped right on. No, sorry, that was backwards. My youngest, he was kind of right on board. He was like, oh, you know, this is great. Dad's back, blah, blah, blah. He hadn't seen as much as the other 2 had seen, you know, and my middle child was fairly standoffish. You know, he was just waiting for the other shoe to drop and
waiting. Like,
basically, how long is it going to last this time? How long is Dad going to stick around before he takes off and we don't see him for years again? You know, and
that's what they're used to seeing.
Yeah. And I mean, it took, I don't know, probably a year and a half, 2 years of actually being consistent and showing up and being a part of his life before he started to come around. Well, maybe he's not going to disappear this time, you know? And now he calls me when he's having troubles. He's, you know, I'll never forget this. He kissed a girl for the first time, you know?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. He called me, and he was freaking out. He's like, guess what just happened? Blah, 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 blah. You know, and like, as insignificant as that seems, that was one of the highlights of my life. The fact that my kid, you know, and it was like 10:30, 11 o'clock at night, and he's like, can I call you? And I was like, absolutely, man, anytime. You know, and I got to experience that with him. It was, you know, and there's other situations where just a couple of weeks ago, he was with his girlfriend and they were doing some stuff and he was in a situation where he was uncomfortable, you know, and he called me and he's like, what should I do? You know, and I'm like this, I even told him, I was like, I think it's fantastic that, you know, you can call me at any time. You know, you're not going to get in trouble. I'm not going to judge. I'm not going to get mad. I'm not going to freak out. I'm going to, you know, help you as best I can. And that's, you know, he's like, oh, blah, blah, blah. And, like, I get to experience things like that now.
You know I'm going to find out what the details were after the show, guys. So.
It's not even that big of a deal. But, like, so him and his girlfriend were hanging out. No, and they were with her dad. And, you know, they brought him to a house party, you know, a couple of his buddies or whatever. And they were all drinking and Dad was drinking and everybody there was drunk and stuff. And he called me and he's like, you know, I just really don't feel comfortable here, but we're Dad's ride. I'm like, fuck him. Yeah. You know, that he's a grown-ass man. He can find his own way home. If you are uncomfortable with you and your girlfriend in that situation, tell him, I got to go.
Yeah.
You know, and head out. And I was like, if it comes down to it, I was like, you call me when he calls you to come pick him up. I'll go with you. We'll figure it out that way. But just the fact that there was an uncomfortable,
no,
you know?
just to think you get to be there for him for that.
Yeah.
That's huge. No, I thought you were going to talk about like stinky fingers or something like
No.
Bro, I need to hear these details.
As far as I know,
but that's even better to hear that.
Yeah, you know, and just that he was in, and I mean, there probably wasn't going to be an issue, you know, but the fact that he felt that uncomfortability, he felt, I don't want to say scared is the word, but he felt uncomfortable, and he's got a really good sense of situational awareness, you know, and it was
to
just
think he called you for that.
Yeah.
That's the shit.
You know, and there's things like that. And then with my youngest, he was in school and, you know, I got sober. I got put on the list of people to call if there's a problem at school, you know, but I was at the bottom of the list. Right. So my kid got a sewing needle stuck in his finger, right? And he's freaking out. They're they can't get a hold of Mom because she's at work. So they go, Mom, Grandma, Godmother, Grandpa, you know, they went through this whole list of people and they're like, well, we're sorry, we can't get a hold of anybody. And my kid freaks out. He's like, call my dad, you know, and I'm in a situation in my life where if I get that phone call, I can go, whether I'm at work, whether I'm whatever I'm doing, I can drop what I'm doing and go do that, handle that, you know, and he's like, call my dad. And they called me, and just to hear him tell me this story, the fact that he even thought to say, call my dad,
that
is
warms the heart.
Oh yeah, tremendously, you know, and that's growth, you know.
Yeah,
That's
dude,
a
these are
huge
things-
amount of growth.
Put it this way, like just with what you've already shared about who they were in your life to you versus now you get that call, like you get to be there for it. Like you get to be aware of it, present, and willing to be able to help. Like, yeah, I can come help. Not like, fuck, I gotta set down the bubble.
I got it.
Yeah, I gotta figure out how to get by.
Yeah,
without
I
the
get to
dirty
just
license.
stop what I'm doing and get him, you know, I
Yeah.
get to help and be present for my kid. Like we talked about this last time. That is the greatest gift that recovery has given me, is the gift of presence. I get to be there for these things. I get to be there for, like, one of my middle kid just failed a class in school. You know, it's not the most highlight of the thing, but I get to be there for that conversation. I get to be there like, hey, man, what's going on? We got to get, you know, this is school. It's important. You got to get, it's even the not so fun parts of adulting and parenting, I get to be present for.
Yeah, and you enjoy it.
I do.
Like,
Maybe
you
not
can
in the moment at the time, but to sit back and look at it and be like,
Right.
yeah, I
You
got
be
to be
grateful
there
for
for
that shit.
Yes, extremely grateful for
Like
that
and,
stuff.
and guys, listen, this is what I talk about when this is the new life. Like this is that not pursuit of happiness, but this is what that journey looks like, and like it's there for the taking, and it's free. It just takes your time. That's it. Real quick, John, are you the tree service, John? The guy in the mystery van, John?
The Mr. Van.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, the van's gone. I got rid of the van a
All
long
right,
time
so
ago.
Van's gone a long time ago. We've got a really faithful listener who's a big supporter of the show, and she sent me a short story about, or a little something that happened. Said that's crazy. He gave me a ride. From the ER when I was pregnant with her child.
Yep.
Do you recall this?
Yep, I do.
She wasn't sure if you would. She said, I only met him like once before, and he showed up in the middle of the night and hadn't seen him since. I'm not even sure if he remembers me.
Oh, yeah. I can't think of her name off the top of my head,
That's
but
all
yeah.
good. I'll say it to you. But look these are things that when was this, a long time ago, or do you?
I was probably a year and a half sober. So, I mean, this was a couple years ago for sure.
Yeah. They're really grateful for it, and look that sticks out in their mind. Like they really listen. These are the gifts that we get in recovery. Like that little action you did that was just once and done. These are the things we get to do. Now talking about like with your kids too. This is the type of stuff that's the awards. Like I'm jumping all over talking and showing pictures and doing all sorts of fun stuff. So there's this guy, John, that we talk about who posed a question. We admitted we were powerless over our disease and that our lives have become unmanageable. What does that mean to you?
Well,
And does it apply to you?
Oh yeah, and see, that's one of the things that blew my mind. This is one of the things that's opened my mind to a whole nother world of woo-ha, is that for the I've been in and out of this program since I was 16, 17 years old, you know, and I look at that, and it's, you know, the disease obviously is our addiction.
Yep.
The unmanageable part, but that second half, that our lives had become unmanageable. For the longest time, I thought that had to do with I can't hold a job, I'm in and out of jail, I'm this, I'm not around my kids, blah, blah, blah. But I've come to learn that I manage that shit just fine. You know, I'm perfectly comfortable in jail. I'm far more comfortable than anybody should probably ever be in jail. You know, that shit's like a vacation.
Yeah.
I was totally managing the fact that I wasn't around my kids. I was okay with it. I got by day to day. I was totally fine with not having a job. I figured out a way to be a homeless bum and still get high. You know, I figured I was managing all that stuff just fine. And somebody told me one time that lives part, anytime they talk about lives in the book, they're talking about the internal, how we think, feel, and believe. And that's what, that blew my mind. You know, that comes back to the whole, just because you remove the alcohol doesn't mean you fix the problem. You know, it's all about what we think, feel, and believe in our heads, you know, and that's, once you start working on that stuff and bringing it back around to willingness again, you got to be willingness to work on that stuff, because that's when you start getting uncomfortable. It starts getting stupid. You start bringing up things that you've probably spent most of your life trying to repress and forget about, you know. But that's the stuff that's driving you to do some of the things that you're doing, you know, and it gets uncomfortable. But once you get through that uncomfortability, there's so much light and positivity once you get past that, and room for growth. It's amazing that all that stuff that you're trying to avoid and uncomfortable. It's like having a ceiling on your growth. Once you break through that shit, the possibilities are endless.
Well, and that's, I believe, a lot of that shit, that uncomfortableness through all that, that's what builds our character. Mm-hmm. That's forming you. It was put to me that whatever age I started using is the emotional age I am once I get clean. So, like you said, 9 years old.
Yeah.
Okay, so really 9, 10, 11, 12, you're 13, 14 years old emotionally, but with stints in between, you add it up, whatever. It takes us time. It just takes time. But you heard John share, like, for 2 years, until he got serious about this, really. There's guys in that Thursday night meeting who will talk about, like Dave. He was in the rooms for 11 years before he started working the program. Nope. Sick as fuck for 11 years, still being grimy, cheating and stealing and like.
But the thing of it is it's even once just taking the drugs out of it and putting a little bit of effort into actual life, things were better. You know, like things were a lot comparably, things were a lot better. Yes. You know, but I still had that shit in my head that I didn't know what to do with. I didn't know how to handle, you know. I was still trying to find ways. I switched addictions, you know, whether it was just going from meeting to meeting to meeting to meeting to always being around people to always trying to help other people so I could avoid helping myself, you know. So instead of using drugs and alcohol, I was using other people's problems or whatever outside issue I could come up with to avoid that, you know. And I still had the shit going on in my head, you know, and that shit gets heavy.
Hell yes. And without getting a set of tools on how to deal with the stuff or to grow through it, like, what do? You're assed out, really. You have no tools to work through life. So
you're white knuckling it.
White knuckling it, or your addiction shows up in other forms.
Yep.
I.e., food. Like, that's a good one.
Food,
a lot of people,
women, work.
You
name it. Your addiction can show up in so many other forms. It's not even funny. And then, like, work, for instance, you can justify that 100% that I'm doing good because I'm going to work and I got all these toys and all this money and blah 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 blah. But are you really happy? You know, are you? And that's what it comes down to. Right. And there was a meeting the other night, and we talked about isolation. It was on the Just for Today reading. And, you know, everybody's like, oh, blah, 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 blah. I isolate, blah, blah, blah. It got around to me. And for me, I had to learn how to isolate. Because in my lifestyle, I was surrounded by people constantly. I was never alone, I was couch hopping, I was homeless. Right. If I was alone, I was trying to be around people so I wasn't stuck outside freezing my ass off. You know?
So by default, really, you became a people person.
Yep. And the more I started to work this program, I realized that wasn't just because of my use. That was because I wasn't comfortable in my own skin. I wasn't comfortable being alone because I didn't know what to fucking do with myself. You know? And now I look forward to coming home at the end of the day and spending some alone time. You know? And I personally had to learn how to isolate to a point. You know, you got to find that balance in life. There are times where I isolate too much and I just want to lay in bed and sit around and do nothing, you know, and that's not healthy. But I think we all need that alone time to reflect, to meditate, whatever you want to call it, you know, to basically just process the day, process life. If you're always constantly going and surrounded by people and you don't take any time for you, you know, and by time for you, it can be as simple as reading for a little bit or, you know, watching a little TV or maybe just scrolling through the phone, you know, but even that can become an addiction.
Well, and here you go. Like, a lot of people, no, I can only speak for me. There is a difference between personal time and isolation. Like,
yes.
And only each individual know what that looks like. Like, I know when it turns into me time and isolation. Like, you know when that is. When there's something to go do and I should get up and do it. Instead, I want to just veg out and that goes on and on. It's a dark hole to get into. People talk about it as though like depression. The deeper it gets, the harder it is to crawl back out of that hole. I want to read something to you, and I want your take on it and how it looks in your life today. And acceptance is the answer to all my problems today. When I am disturbed, it is because I find some person, place, thing, or situation that some fact of my life is unacceptable to me. And I can find no serenity until I accept that person, place, thing, or situation as exactly the way it is supposed to be in that moment. Nothing, absolutely nothing in God's world is by mistake. Until I accept myself, my situation, and my life completely on life's terms, I cannot be happy. I need to concentrate not so much on what happens in the world as on what needs to change in me and in my attitude. That's a long reading, and you've read it and heard it before. Talk to me about acceptance.
I was actually just thinking about this the other day. You know what? Just because you accept something doesn't mean you like it. You know what I mean? Just because you choose to set up boundaries and not be around whatever it is doesn't mean you don't accept it. To accept something means you're not trying to control it. That's a simple way to put it.
That's put well.
You know, and what that may be whatever it is, because we as people, me, I can only talk about me. Me as a person, if I don't like something, I'll try to control it. You know, whether it be anything. You know, say you're at a meeting and there's a guy and you know he's kind of prowling newcomers and blah 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 and doing whatever. You know, and you're sitting there talking shit and trying to warn everybody and blah 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 blah. That's you trying to control the situation or change it. You know, to accept it, you're not trying to control it. You know, you're not trying to feed into it, but you're not letting it live rent free in your head. You're not letting it consume you. You know, and that's just, you can use any situation like that, you know. Say there's a family member that you're going to a family function, and this family member just they're probably the one that needs the program the most, and they're trying to tell everybody how to live their life. You know, you can sit and argue with that person or let them get you upset, or you can put a smile on your face, give them a hug, tell them you love them. You know, it's nice to see you, and go about your business. You know, that is acceptance. As soon as you start trying to control something, you are no longer accepting it for what it is.
That's a good way of putting it. Now, would you agree with this statement? Is you are as happy as you want to be, and you are the maker of your own happiness?
No. Yes and no. I've had this argument a lot with people. Happiness is a choice to a degree. You know what I mean?
I've heard something about happiness and joy. They're two different things, but
they are. And I guess I don't really know how to explain it. I heard at it was a prom night they did last year or 2 years ago. One of the Al-Anon speakers talked about the difference between happiness and joy, and it made a lot of sense to me, but I don't remember a lot of it. But
try to regurgitate it.
It's just I'm gonna F it up. So, but as far as happiness, it kind of is a choice. But here's my argument on that. The day your mom dies, the day a kid dies, the day something tragic happens, you know, there's going to be times I personally don't think I could choose to just walk around with a smile on my face that day. You know what I mean? But am I going to let it screw me up for the rest of my life? Or am I going to choose to be happy after that? You know, I mean, in those situations, you can choose to remember the good times, the fun times you had. But there is going to be sadness, and I think you need to have that sadness to be healthy. You have to have that grief. You have to process it, deal with it. You know, and that's just a normal, healthy part of life. I don't care what anybody says. Nobody's going to go through life happy 24/7.
So here's no, this isn't, because I'm trying to think of situations you can't control are the ones you can choose your own happiness over, but that's not true either, because the death one, you're right. You're absolutely right. Here you go. Let me read this. Joy is an inner feeling. Joy is an inner feeling. Happiness is an outwards expression. Joy endures hardship and trials and connects with meaning and purpose. A person pursues happiness but chooses joy. I don't even know what I just read.
What I got out of that is happiness is buying a new gun or a new car or a new toy. Joy is seeing your grandkids born or your kid graduating or, you know, something along them lines.
Same difference. Joy comes out of things you can't control. Happiness comes out of things you can control. Yeah.
That, you know.
But it can also go the opposite way. Is Like sorrow comes out of things you can't control, but happiness comes out of I'm trying to fucking Confucius this and this ain't
But
happening.
see, with the sorrow thing, the ups, in our use, when we didn't have the tools that we are now equipped with to get through this stuff, to work out our shit in our head, it's losing a job, losing a sibling, losing a family member, even stuff not that significant. Like I say, losing a job or your car breaks down,
There you go.
and your use, you could use that to go on a bender for weeks. We do have, we have the choice in our life to either just sit and process that shit and move on, or we can sit in it,
Nope, you're
and
right.
if
and
we,
without tools, especially, you're fizzled.
yeah, and if you choose to just sit in that and wallow in your own self-pity and try to, misery loves company and blah, 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 that's a choice you make, whether high or not, sober, high, it doesn't matter. That's a choice we as people can make,
Right.
And on the mental thing, there are people that struggle with that more than others, that's just a thing, and
You're right, because mental health, I don't like saying mental health, but that side of it, you're right. There's some things that just can't be controlled by saying
Yep.
that because of mental balances.
yeah.
The situation, like I've seen it happen where over death. But now I see this as a selfishness thing, is watch someone stay drunk for multiple years over someone dying.
Yep.
Now, I'm not I never was a huge drinker, so I don't understand that, but my go-to is dope.
Yep.
Whatever, tit for tat, I don't care.
Whatever number, it didn't matter.
And I
You may
say
not have been a
yeah.
huge drinker, but when the dope wasn't available and someone said, "Hey, you want a cocktail?"
Yes.
Sure.
And I'm easy over here, like feel like I'm up on some perch and better than, and I know that's not the truth, but I've seen it happen. I stayed high for the dumbest reasons for so long, and looking back, I can say I was just being selfish. I made it all about me, and it was easy to get high through doing that. Like while staying high, I was boo-hoo, poor me, but you don't understand how bad it is for me. Whatever. It's like, you know what? With a lot of this that we're talking about, I'm going to read you again something. If we are painstaking about this phase of our development, we will be amazed before we are halfway through. We are going to know a new freedom and a new happiness. We will not regret the past nor wish to shut the door on it. God, I could stop after each one of these and talk about it. We will comprehend the word serenity. We will know peace. No matter how far down the scale we have gone, we will see how our experiences can benefit others. That feeling of uselessness and self-pity will disappear. That feeling of uselessness and self-pity, it will disappear. We will lose interest in selfish things and gain interest in our fellows. Self-seeking will slip away. Our whole attitude and outlook upon life will change. Fear of people and economic insecurities will leave us. We will intuitively know how to handle situations which usually baffle us. We will suddenly realize that God is doing for us what we could not do for ourselves. Excuse me. They are being fulfilled among us, sometimes quickly and sometimes slowly, but they will always materialize if you work for them. What I just read, do you think any of that has to do with alcohol?
No.
With that, I should have asked that first, but with that question, I'm going to say, do you think this has anything to do with meth, heroin, alcohol, hallucinogenics? If we are painstaking about this phase of our development, we'll be amazed before we're halfway through. Do you think this has anything to do with alcohol or drugs? We are going to know a new freedom or new happiness.
Maybe that part.
Okay.
But the rest of it, no, it has to do with
Yeah.
what's going on in our head.
This is where it makes sense that it's a me. It's not a drug problem. It's a me problem. We are going to know. No, we will not regret the past, nor will we shut the door on it. Sure, my past, a lot of the darkness has to do with alcohol and drugs, but a lot of that kept going because of my past and the shit I did. Now, we will comprehend the word serenity and we'll know peace. You know what? Here, the feeling of uselessness and self-pity will disappear. Like, what's your thought on the promises and where you've come in life today?
Sometimes quickly, sometimes slowly. And that's all of our literature is basically a textbook. It
A life
teaches,
lesson textbook.
It is, and that's part of that was another topic we had the other day, is fellowship and stuff. And the way I was taught about it is the literature and meetings, they show us the program. When you start going to fellowship, working with a sponsor, doing all this stuff, that's where you learn how to live this program. And we need that, because like I said, if all that recovery was going to meetings and sitting in a room for an hour and listen to some people bitch about their problems, it wouldn't work for me. That would just steer me away from it even more. It would make me not want to go to meetings, But like I say, that is where we learn the program. Where you learn how to live the program is in fellowship, is in the one-on-one shit like this. Two guys sitting down talking,
Chopping it up.
and that's where you learn how to live this stuff. You can go to a fellowship, you go to Applebee's or whatever after the meeting, and you can see these two guys don't like each other. Or this guy, he talked about whatever the case may be in the meeting. You go out after the meeting, and that's where you kind of get the back and forth. You get
the deep dive, the meeting after the meeting.
Yeah, and you can actually, you can talk about it and ask questions about it and see what they're doing to get past that. That's.
It's one of these things. Like John's one of the guys that I'll go to, but something I never saw myself doing prior to recovery is coming to another grown man and being like, dude, I'm fucking hurting.
Yeah.
I'm bummed out. X, Y, and Z is going on in my life, and I'm fucking hurting. I don't know what to do. Sometimes I might not even want a response. Sometimes I just need an ear. But these are things that the recovery's been able to give me. Like, I could go to my parents, I go to my brother, but they don't understand this shit that we spent year after year working on. This is This is a self-help improvement program. It's a self-help book. That's it.
Yeah. I mean, to a point.
You're telling me people that are sober can benefit from this program?
Oh yeah. I firmly believe you could apply the 12 steps to whatever ailment you have going on in life, and
100%.
You will find improvement.
I see people getting pissed off over pissed off over situations you can't control. I live life like that.
Look at the variety of A's there are out there nowadays. And they all follow the 12 steps.
Yes.
So
they all. I mean, if we do the history dive, whatever, it comes from whatever Oxford group, this, that, from the Bible.
Yeah.
From the Bible. I've never read the Bible, so I can't sit and quote that type of shit, but I've heard enough of my predecessors talk about that. That's where it comes from, but you're right. Al-Anon stems from these 12 steps.
Al-Anon, Weed Anonymous, Food Anonymous, Sex Anonymous, cocaine, blah, 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 blah. You can put anonymous after whatever word you want for the most part. And that's what these steps are. Mm-hmm. They're a way to a better life. And you can a better life. And you can apply them to whatever ailment it is that you have going on in life. Whatever you're struggling with, if you sit down and you apply these 12 steps to that problem you have in life, you will see improvement. I guarantee it.
So I have another question. Have you had to cut out or take space from family or friends that didn't respect your boundaries?
I haven't had anybody that didn't respect my boundaries, but I have had to cut family and friends out of my life.
Why?
Because, one for sure, because they're one of the few people in my life that I could see me having a soft spot for and getting high.
Okay.
You know what I mean? People that, what's the word? They're not helping me grow. They're not pushing me in the right direction. Negative people in general. If you're not positive in my life, then you're not around.
And you've done that with family? Like you were able to do that with someone you care or love about?
Oh, yeah.
Just always negative and pissed off and
not even negative, but like not willing to put effort into themselves. If I'm putting more effort into you than you're putting into yourself, you're just draining me, and that's not That's
You'll
not
get
what
me
I
drunk
need.
before I get you sober.
Yeah,
type of
exactly.
deal.
You
Right.
know, and it's not even people that use 100%. There's sober people that I choose to stay away from.
No, I get
You,
it.
you know what I
get it,
mean?
yeah.
I want to help them. I'm willing to help them, and when they're willing to help themselves, I will be there 100%. But until that point, there's nothing I can do for you. I don't want to sit and listen to your sob story over and over and over and over. And that's why, like, I know it's probably not a good thing, but I don't per se have a home group. I don't have a meeting that I go to religiously every single week. I try to go to different meetings. You know, I'll drive an hour away, go here, go there, go wherever, because that's what I did to get high. So that's what I do to stay sober.
yes.
You know, and even in our literature, it says we learn more as we visit various meetings. On my experience, I go to the same meeting with the same people all the time. Yeah, it's good, great, grand. You know, you build a support system. You got people you can reach out to and the days when you're struggling and stuff. But it gets to a point where you start hearing the same thing over and over and over, you know, because like if you've ever been to a step tradition meeting, I don't know if anybody else has noticed, but the 12, they follow each month, it's the same step, you know, so after a year, it starts over and you start hearing pretty much the same thing you heard last year if you're at the same meeting with the same people over and over and over. And that's not growth for me. You know, that's beating a dead horse. I want to grow. I want to hear as many perspectives as I can. You know, the Thursday meeting I really enjoy. There's a lot of good knowledge and information there.
Same
but
difference, though.
it's the same thing. You're gonna if you keep talking to the same people, you're gonna keep getting the same response. So you got to step outside of your comfort zone to get outside the box, to hear something else. You don't know. You might go to a meeting that you've never been to. You walk in, you don't know a single person there. You're going to hear something from somebody that you've never met before that's going to make more sense to you than somebody you've been listening to for a year,
Right.
year and a half.
You might hear something that's going to end up saving your life if you didn't hear it. You know what I mean? Like, I agree with you. I've always had that look on my recovery. There's certain times that I've ended up with positions in meetings, so I end up being there for longer than I would. But my first, with exception to my first year, not even, I wouldn't say exception, but my first year I ended up with a commitment at Tradition 5, so I was there for a solid year. And then when they started this NA group that you weaseled out of, they tried to get you part of it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I put in my effort, but this is kind of a drive for me, which isn't an excuse, you know, but
I heard other excuses.
yeah.
I heard I was part of the reason.
Oh, no, not at all.
Tara wanted to run her mouth and be like, "Hey, John didn't want to be part of this because you're over there working in an AA program." I was like, "Bullshit."
That's
shut
funny
up."
because that's what I do. I work in AA program.
know.
I find
I don't let her I don't co-sign her shit, and I called her on it, and I was like, "Well, let's call him then." Oh, whatever. We don't need to. But that's what I do now.
Yep.
Like I've done that from like the first 6 months of recovery, because I hate. I mean, and not to. Hey, look, I've got a good relationship with both the Ackermans, but like, I don't like the or if someone says something that and I made that clear on the show, like with Elena, there'd be shit between Elena and Tad, or we had some Matt kid, whoever. One would say someone said something, and they were here. I was like, well, hang on. I'd call them on speaker. Like, hey, Blow Joe said AGC said this. Let's get this out in the open and figure it out. We're too old for that shit.
and that's that doesn't concern me. I don't know that we need to get into all that, but like if those are the kind of people I want in my life. The people that aren't gonna co-sign my bullshit. You know what I mean? People that are gonna call me on my shit. That's being held accountable.
Yes.
You know, and that's the joys of having a home group is you build that relationship with people that notice when you're off, the people that notice when you're doing different.
Yes, but that right there, like I'll stop you and say, those are some of the, not the only, but the key reasons why I feel, yes, a home group is important, but after 4 years, you've got a core group of people. Without it having a home group, you make your connections. Like that may not be the exact same as they were in year 1 or year 2, but you end up linking up with some people that, like, I don't see Bob every week. I talk to him every morning on the phone, like whether it's a text or a phone call. There's certain people that happens, but that came from being at specific meetings here and there, whatever. But a home group, like, you'll hear old timers, you'll hear people, like, I don't know why that's so etched in stone, is you have to have you don't.
I think in the beginning it's good to have a home group, to find some place that you are comfortable, because that's where them cornerstones and the keystone and all that stuff, your building starts to form. Because if you do like me in the beginning, I went to different meetings every time. You know, granted, I was trying to go to the meetings with the prettiest women or whatever. You know, and that's you know, that's an addiction taking over in other forms. But you start you know, you go to a bunch of different meetings, you find one you like. You go to it a couple of times, and now you're going out to fellowship. You know, you're having a conversation with people. You're finding that you have similar interests. You're finding that you bond in some way, shape, or form on some platform. And now you're exchanging numbers, you know.
Right.
You start to go to that, and all of a sudden you don't show up for 2 weeks. Now you got people from that meeting calling you, making sure you're okay. You know, like you say, opening that door, just kind of cracking the door and letting people in a little bit. That's where I think having a home group, or at least a consistent group, is a good idea, because that's, if you just go to a different meeting every week and
if you don't make any solid ass connections,
you're never going to make them connections, you know, and
But I
that's
think
where
guys
a home
like-
group comes in.
like you or me, not everyone isn't a people person or outspoken. You see it all the times in these rooms. A lot of people are introverts. I think that's opposite of us, right?
Those are my favorite people to go up to and give a hug.
Watch them cringe. I love it. I love it.
And I don't. There's a story in one of the books. I can't remember if it's from AA or NA. And there's a reason for that. You know how we don't do it so much anymore, but when we say the opening and the closing prayer, we used to always hold hands or put our arms around each other. And I can't remember if it's AA or NA, and whatever. Judge me for that if you want.
It's AA.
Is it the AA one? But there's a story in one of the books that the person telling the story, what got them to come back is somebody went out of their way, because they were the person sitting in the back of the room, you know, kind of away from everybody, but somebody went out of their way to open up that circle and make sure they were connected in it, you know, and that's what we need. Sometimes that awkwardness, that uncomfortability is what breaks that ice for that person, you know? I don't know how many times I've gone, you go to a meeting that you've been to a bunch of times, you see that, you know, you can always tell who the newcomer is, you know, by the look on their face or by the fact that they sit away from everybody. Those are my favorite people to walk up to, give a hug, tell them I love them, and sit down next to them and just start having a conversation, you know? I don't know how many of them people, I have their phone numbers that call me, you know, they get a birthday or whatever, and they're like, you know, you're one of the reasons that I'm still here, because you made me feel comfortable. And it doesn't seem like a big deal.
But
and
that's a payoff for you. Like
It's a
this is
payoff
the
for
12-step
both.
stuff where they talk about, you know, giving this away. Like that's you. You learn that from these rooms. Well, kind of, but that you're getting that a direct payoff. Like these are 12-step stuff, or you get some of these old timers. I've heard them talk about. It's weird. A lot of the ones I hear talk about, I haven't seen them do it much, but they'll say it like, I find that newcomer. You can see, just like you said, you see the lost puppy dog look, or they're off in the corner, not saying much. Make sure to go say hi. Learn their name, so when you see them again, you say, "Oh, hey, Todd, it's good to see you here."
Yep.
I started doing that just not out of spite, but to test. Let's just say to test it. And I started doing that at New Hope Alano with people. And within 2 months, I got feedback like that all the time. Yeah, but it was kind of a dig at the club. You're the only one who came and said hi to me. And in a bad way, they were saying it, but like, it feels good to know you made someone feel welcome.
Yeah,
It does.
That's not in everybody's wheelhouse. Like you say, a lot of people are introverts and they don't. And I get it, you know. For me, I like uncomfortability. I like weird. I like awkward. You know, it's one of my favorite things.
You were riding a 10-inch dong or a 10-foot dong online.
Yeah.
I saw it.
Absolutely.
Yeah, you enjoying comfortableness. I went to New Way, and Karen, this lady Karen, she's gonna be on the show. Matter of fact, she reached back out. It's gonna be awesome. She was my counselor, and she dropped this. I always say this dime on me. She dropped this thing on us. Like no one even acted like she said something, but she's like, you know what? She's one of these tree hugging, just leaf blowing. Someone I don't align my beliefs with her. Like a lot of her politics or her what she thinks social services should be doing. Like I don't align and agree with. But some of the shit she shared blew my wig back, and I tested the shit. She said, Go up to someone, usually someone who's quiet or down. Ask them a question you know the answer to. It doesn't matter if you know the answer. Ask them something they will know the answer to that they can give you the answer to. And watch their whole attitude change. That they got to help you out. Whether it's phony and you don't need the answer. And I started doing that shit. Like, I went on this kick for like 6 months doing it all the time. And it was right near when I kind of stopped doing it or whatever, when it kind of faded away, it was when we started this show. But anyone listen, like, I challenge you, go do that to someone you see down. Like, give them an opportunity to help you. It's kind of ass backwards and kind of sounds conniving, but it's not. You're helping someone. And it's in return, like, it feels good, dude, to help someone. It's like remembering someone's name or like, hey, dude, it's good to see you. I'm glad you found us. Something like that at a meeting. Shit like that. It helps. John.
What's up?
4 years. Congratulations.
Thank you.
What has been the biggest hurdles in your recovery? I know I've asked you that before, but what have been the biggest hurdles in your recovery and how have you overcome them?
Getting out of my own way.
What do you mean?
Just the thinking in my head, that internal controversy that I have with myself. Like, so for instance, I just quit smoking like 4 days ago. And the first day was easy, you know, it was like, all right. But now every time I finish eating or I sit in my truck or I do this, my brain wants to tell me, oh, you should smoke a cigarette. You should smoke a cigarette. You know, this is typically when you'd smoke a cigarette. That's me getting in my own way. You know, that's my will, not God's will. And by getting in my own way, we've talked about it kind of like the isolating thing. What I want to do. I don't want to go to this meeting because I just, you know, I worked a long day or come up with all kinds of excuses to not go do something. That's me getting in my own way. That unwillingness to be uncomfortable, to do something that you're not used to, do something that you don't want to do. You know, once you start doing that stuff, it kind of becomes second nature. And the next thing you know, you're doing it without even thinking about it. I would have to say would be my biggest hurdle was getting out of my own way. You know, especially since I've been in and out of this program since I'm 16, 17 years old, I figured I knew this thing inside and out. You know, I know what I'm doing. I don't need your help, Tim, because I've been here since I was 16. I got this shit figured out. And in reality, I didn't have a damn thing figured out because if I did, it probably would have stuck.
Right.
You know, and it never did. So it's like, fuck. So, I mean, what about you? What's been your biggest hurdle?
Shit. I've asked that question over 100 times on this show. I've never thought about the answer. I'm the host. I don't have to answer that shit.
No, suck it up, Buttercup.
I'm joking. Lying.
To yourself or to others?
Others. Just being a liar. Like I said, that was one of the reasons people ask me, like, why'd you get clean? Like, what was your catalyst? I'm still trying to figure out what it was, but that was part of it. Like, all the chaos and the lying. It became, like I said, I don't know how to explain it, but it became part of my vocabulary. And a lot of us can relate to that, especially, I don't mean that drug addicts are any different than alcoholics, but like a lot of people with drugs, because they're illegal, there is that aspect. Alcohol is not illegal. Heroin, meth, that's very illegal. There's, by omission, you're always lying about it, but because it's not accepted. Everything I did was a lie. Every single thing was a lie. What I'm getting at is when I got into recovery, the normal for me was lying. John talks about that. He's like, you got to make new normals, man. Like, the new normal. What's your new normal? It took me 2 years. I was constantly, daily, multiple times a day, calling myself out right after I tell a lie. Like, we've all heard those stories or we've all shared about it or experienced it. And it's like, I would tell a lie and instantly be like, dude, I don't know why I just lied to you. But that's a lie. I'm not, that's bullshit. It's a lie. It was never major. It's just because it was the nature. It was just the normal for me. So not lying was something that was a big hurdle. And I eventually got over it. I've overcome it. But you know what? It was easy, like last year, 2 years ago, right when COVID hit, I found myself lying again about dumb shit. Just slipped right back in like it was no big deal. And like after a month or two, Bob called me out. Bob did. Bob called me right the fuck out. Like, you're lying. Because half the time, I don't think he listens. He's just old and always going so fast. And like we do so much fishing and this and that. Like, he don't listen to me sometimes, man. But the motherfucker listens. He caught me up on like 2 different lies. He's like, that's not what you said. Like, it was something about my truck. He's like, you said your rear passenger side tire got a flat. What are you talking about? It was something just so stupid. I'm like, I don't know, dude. I lied to you about that. Yeah, I lied. I don't know. It just, you got to stay after your growth, man. Like, I have to, and that's why I do like some of them old curmudgeon assholes. I do. That really don't co-sign some shit, and we'll call you out. Like, and it hurts. He was the first one who he calls it pie facing you. Like if you say, yeah, I'll give you a call later, and you don't. He won't make a deal about it, but next time he sees you, like we were on our way fishing one morning, and he had a hard conversation with me. He's like, look, man, I thought we're buddies. I'm like, we are. I love you, dude. No, you don't. You wouldn't fucking tell me you're going to do this and not do it. Why would you do that to me? And like he got emotional. He's like, I thought we were friends. And like, I invest my time with you. Like, it was a hard conversation. And we had another hour and a half ahead of us in this truck. I broke it off. Like, I broke down like, yeah, dude, I'm sorry. It's not who I want to be. And like, call me on my shit. I've never had, like my dad would, but my mom kind of will hold him back from really busting my ass about some things. Still does. But I never had no one in my life. I always surrounded myself with people I wanted to co-sign. You know what I'm saying? Like, we don't surround ourselves with people that are going to call us out. Because in my mind, prior to recovery, that wasn't a friend. But them are probably the closest friends I have now. You know what I mean? So, yeah. Bring up a topic. What do you want to share about? Because we're getting near the end here, and I want you to be able to share about some stuff. Whatever you want. If there's nothing, I get it.
You know, I guess, I don't know.
I usually task you guys with a question, but this was last minute stuff.
Last time we were here,
come on.
Towards the end, we started talking about what was your favorite part about recovery.
Yeah, positive shit.
Yeah, let's end on a positive note. What? Well, I'm gonna take over a little bit here, Timmy. All right. So, Timmy, what's been your favorite part? The biggest blessing that this program has given you?
Getting over my fears. Getting over fears. And
is that to say that you no longer have fears?
I'll elaborate. For one, and not to get graphic, sex. I was so paranoid. Like, I shared about this with all my friends, too, at the time. Derek was a big one. The group, like I said, my groups have kind of changed, but some people have stayed the whole way. Some died. Some went back to using. But, like, I shared about it at a meeting, too. Like, I was almost in a relationship with someone, but what held me back was I was scared of sex. I was scared because prior to recovery, there was always a substance involved, one way or another. Not Cialis, not like that. I'm talking about the intimacy part. Mm-hmm. Like getting intimate with. We were at the bar, like get a little loosey, a little juicy, and I didn't know what or how to handle it. I shared about it at New Way too. Like, I was scared of not intimacy, but how to do it. Like, am I still going to be able to? I've been in relationships since I was 16, and they're long-term relationships where after that first couple months, it got comfy and we could handle situations. But, like, the best thing about recovery is getting over that's one of the biggest ones is over that fear.
So would you say recovery has completely removed fear from your life, or has it given you the tools you need to work through it?
It's helped me figure out how to deal with fears and tools on how to do that. And most of it has to do with the fellowship and being able to tell another grown adult and men. I wasn't asking women about this. So I would talk to another grown man and straight up tell him, like, look, man, just like that's a good, I'll say intimacy, not sex. I would ask, like, and of course I'm asking a guy who's been married for 30 years. I'm one of them. Like, that's not an easy one, but yes, how to deal with fear. And that came in all sorts of shapes and forms, like being around at the time, being around family members that may have got high. Like, I came into recovery with 2 older brothers, and one was doing the drug I enjoyed. And, of course, he's no longer here because of that drug I enjoyed. But, like, how do I deal with that? And that's, I know it's dark what I'm saying, but that was a huge hurdle, and that could have been one of my hurdles. But that's, I love that about this, is it's not comfortable. It's not comfortable dealing with that type of shit, but getting through it and coming out the other end happy and unscathed, because I did come out the other end on every situation that I addressed in fear. It came out good on the other end. So yeah, fear, getting over fears. That's one of the most enjoyable things I've been able to deal with in recovery. John, what's one of the most enjoyable things that you've dealt with in recovery? Or that you got to experience?
I say it over and over, and it's the gift of presence. You know, whether the situation be good, bad, or indifferent, I get to be there for that stuff. I get to be there when people like you reach out and say, hey, I'm struggling. Just today, one of my best friends reached out to me, you know, and we've been good friends for many, many years, through use, through recovery, through all of it. And he's never, I mean, lately he has a couple of times, but he's never, in our use and before I got to where I am today, there was never a time where he's like, hey, man, I'm struggling. You know, like, what can we do about this? He called me this morning, and he's like, I just wanted to, you know, first off, I want to congratulate you and blah, 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 and I just wanted to see what you're doing today because I'm not doing too hot. And he's not even in recovery, you know. And that was, I got to be present for that. You know, I got to go out, have lunch with this guy, and by the end of it, you know, we were laughing, we were having a good time, we were, you know, and we got deep, we got intimate, if you will. You know, it's, well, what's going on, man? You know, what do you want? What are you trying to accomplish here? Do you want just somebody to be there with you? Do you want to talk solutions, or you just want to verbally vomit?
Yeah.
You know, what is it you're trying to do? And I got to be there for this guy and bring a little bit of joy to his life, you know, even if it was just for that little brief moment in time.
Interrupt his thoughts.
You know, I got to get him outside of himself, and that's the kind of shit I say that's my gift of presence, is I get to be there, whether it be for my kids.
I was just going to say, don't leave out the one, to me,
You know,
with what you've shared tonight, one of the biggest ones is your kids. You shared about some instances that some people are like, yeah, and... But what I got out of like all 3 stories you shared about with your kids was you were present.
Yes.
You got to be there whole, like you.
The needle in the finger and my kid calling me when he was uncomfortable or his first kiss.
Yeah.
Years ago, those thoughts would have never even crossed their mind. Yeah, I wouldn't have even been a blip on their radar.
And if you were, you wouldn't have been present for it.
Yeah, if they had thought to call me, I would have been like, "Oh, I'll call your mom," or you know, I'll try to be there in a couple of hours, or blah blah blah, you know. But the gift of presence is I get to show up for life. I get to show up for people. I get to show up for myself. You know, I get to show up for my family. I get to show up for people I don't even know.
Right.
You know, like I say, in that awkwardness when you go up to that newcomer, sometimes it gets a little weird when you get a newcomer comfortable with you and they feel like it's okay to just talk to you about whatever. You know, it gets a little awkward sometimes, but I love awkward, and I love that I get to be present for those things, because in my use, all it was every conversation was, hey, that would be the most I would get out of somebody before you got anything.
Right.
You know, and that was the end of the
100%.
conversation. Nobody cared how I was doing. I didn't care how anybody was doing. I didn't reach out to people and say, hey, man, how you doing, blah, blah, blah. It's, hey, I got some good shit. Do you want it?
That's how we surrounded. That's who we put in our circle, though. Like,
Yep.
That was on us. There's a kid named Matt. He was a newcomer. It made me think of that when you said that. He was in the meeting, Thursday night men's meeting, quiet, and for some reason, I don't know why. Maybe someone told him ahead of time that I used to be a junkie, but he was like eye raping me the whole meeting, but quiet and kind of just, it was awkward. And after the meeting, as we're, you know, I chair that meeting, and finally, I'm not finally, but it's over here pretty quick. I say, like, don't miss the meeting after the meeting. It's right outside this door. You'll see all these old fuckers just sitting out there. Like, go check it out. And after the meeting, I usually don't hang out. I should practice what I preach, but I'm kind of walking out, and dude's like on my heels. And he's big, dude, way bigger than me. And I turn around, I'm like, what's up, dude? Like, how you doing, man? Nothing. What's up with you? It was real awkward, dude. Real awkward. I'm just like, so what's your name? And he tells me, and I'm like, you smoke? Yep. I was like, let's go smoke. We're sitting out there, dude. Within 2 minutes, he's like, yeah, I got heroin dealers out trying to kill me right now. I'm like, okay, what'd you do? Or why are you scared? What's up? Well, I don't know. And they think and then he goes into some stories and this and that. And I'm like, okay, so what? I wanted to be like, why are you telling me? But it was like, I don't know, he gravitated to me. We had the same background, same history, a lot of the stuff. Ended up getting him a job. He tricked it off, but now he goes to a different meeting, but he texts me every single morning. He's like, dude, I just want to, I think he copy and paste. I just want to thank you for what you did for me on day one. And this has been 7 months now. Find something uncomfortable. Like, dude, I didn't want to turn around. I didn't want to talk to him. I'm done with the meeting. I put all this energy into chairing it. I'm ready to go. That shit pays off in the end. It does. I don't know. He might die tomorrow. He might do good. I don't know. We don't go to meetings together, but getting comfortable with being uncomfortable, it's a thing. And I wasn't in my shit when it was going on. I wasn't. Out of my head.
That's why I like making people awkward and making them uncomfortable, because it breaks the ice. You know, you just get that awkward uncomfortableness out of the way in the first 2 seconds of a conversation. It
can only go up.
It can only go up from
or
there.
Or when you yell when you're at a campfire meeting or a Garage Mahal meeting and there's 70 people and you're like, who's coming to Sex World with me?
Yeah. You know, and that's
yeah.
It's a good time. You know, you get that uncomfortable and like you get. It may not even be recovery related what you go out and do, you know?
No, but you can show them clean, good fun.
You can show them how to live the program, you know, how the program works in your life. Because when you go out and do something with like somebody like that, whether it's giving them a ride home or giving them a ride to fellowship or whatever it may be, you get that one-on-one time, and you can start. We just talked about this in my sponsor meeting the other day. Everybody in recovery should have a basic list of questions that you're asking a newcomer when you meet them, you know, and that kind of basically putting out feeler bets, you know, to try to see if there is a way that you guys can see eye to eye, you know. And if you can't, if for some reason you find nothing in common, no common ground with that person whatsoever, by asking them questions, you can probably point them in the right direction of somebody who can find common ground with them, you know. And sometimes that's all it takes. You know, like you just said it with the guy that day you probably saved his life. You know, who's to say that if you hadn't turned around and said, hey, how you doing, that he wasn't on his way out the door to go get high?
Yeah, who knows? Yo, you're right. You know, yeah, his ma just died like 2 months before that, and that was his, I think that, whatever. Yes, you're right. On that same tip as this dude, all right, so this guy who's like 25 years older than me, and another guy who's like 30 years older than me.
That's fucking old.
I know, maybe I'm off. I think I'm still younger, 40, 50, 60. Yeah, 20 years older. And like in the first 8 months of my recovery, I see him at these meetings. Dude's like, what are you doing Saturday night? I'm like, no, I don't know. Why? What's up? Come dancing with us. I'm like, dancing? You guys are old. All right, let's do it. We go down. They take me to an S&M club. And like, we held that tradition. They did this for 20 years prior to me going with them, and I think he still does it, but COVID screwed up a lot of things. But we did that for like a year. Every Saturday night after SNL, we go down to the little S&M weird club, and I'd watch these dudes dance and break sweats. But shit like that, like you want to talk about, and we probably throughout that time brought 10 other newcomers. A lot of people never came back because it's a little uncomfortable with that type of shit, getting people outside their head. But the key thing was showing, like, we can go have fun. Like, that's a big thing I didn't know. I honestly got to a point in my life where I wasn't ever having fun. So to go do something fun, bowling or softball or volleyball or whatever it is, poker. We'd go do poker games at my sponsor's house. Or fireworks, 4th of July. Like, there is a lot of fun you can have where it doesn't have to have a bottle involved.
For however many years it was, everybody's story is a little bit different, but basically for however many years it was, your hobby was getting high. So that's what I tell a lot of these newcomers and people that, just don't know what to do with themselves. You've got to find a hobby. Right. One sponsor of mine told me that, try to remember what you enjoyed before you started getting high.
Like,
coloring. And exactly, coloring, painting. Yeah. I know a lot of people take up crocheting, whatever. Try stuff. If you don't like it, don't do it. Find something else. You know what I mean?
Dude, I had so many coloring books filled with
that's
Sharpie coloring.
What we got to do is find hobbies. We got to find ways. We got to find things in life that bring us joy. Bob says it a lot. What can Tim do to make Tim happy today? Whatever that may be. And not everybody's going to have the same cup of tea, but
well, that's why we bond. Like, I love fishing. I used to, prior to always, before getting high was the goal. Fishing, outdoorsy shit. And we bonded over that shit. Like, you find your niche or your new normal, or get outside yourself and go try some new shit. You never know. You might like crocheting. You might love it. You might be the biggest burly tattooed up dude with the baddest ass quilt you've ever crocheted.
Yeah.
You never know. John, let me do a little advertising and then we're going to talk about gratitude. So, like I was saying before, 2218 is really trying to spread its wings here and make more people feel welcome. You heard us sharing about it. Like, that's a big part of this, is like getting outside yourself, making people feel welcome. So, with that said, we've got a new meeting that starts at 8 p.m. on Fridays. It's an open AA meeting. It's an LGBTQ plus whatever I forgot meeting. Everyone's welcome. It's open for anyone, any way you identify or whatever. It's an open meeting to come check out. It's called Friends of Dorothy. Starts at 8 p.m. I believe it's in the annex. Come on down Friday nights at 8 p.m. If you know someone who's going to meetings that don't feel comfortable with the people they're around and they're just looking for something different, come check it out. I can't talk about it firsthand because I haven't been there. But come check it out. Jane's Cafe, she gave me a piece of some corned beef that they made for... Oh, you know what, everyone? Happy St. Patrick's Day. Holy shit.
Yeah.
I forgot all about that. R to the leprechauns. So...
it's kind of funny. The day I used to get the most effed up on is the day I celebrate my recovery.
Really?
My little Irish ass woke up in jail St. Patty's morning.
Leprechaun.
Leprechaun. But it's easy day to remember, so.
So, John can't hear that. So when I do my little sound effects, he didn't get to hear the echo. But I forget I had this echo button, and it's pretty cool. So, yeah.
When I heard you do it on the way here, I thought you were like, yay, yay, yay.
No, like I have this button that can make it go echo. People are going to be like, I don't want to hear that shit. Every noon here at 2218 in the auditorium, there is a meeting. People thought that went away. It did not. It's a meeting that's called High Noon. Every day. It's an open mix AA meeting. Takes place 12 noon. Here at 2218. There is a Saturday night meeting. Come check it out. It's a speaker meeting. You can find it on Zoom as well. If you'd like to come tell your story, the requirements is a 1 year sobriety, have a sponsor, some service work experience. How will your experience, strength, and hope help a struggling alcoholic or addict? Come on down and share. So, the last thing I want to talk to you boys and girls about is the Ride for Recovery. It's the 5th annual Ride for... You going to ride this year in it?
I think so.
You still have your bike, right?
Yeah.
All right. So, the 5th annual 2218 Ride for Recovery, Saturday, June 24th. The event starts at 8 a.m. at the St. Paul Harley, 2899 Hudson River Road, St. Paul, Minnesota, 55128. There will be breakfast served by Brad B. Pancake breakfast at 8 a.m. till 9:30 a.m. $5 donation for the breakfast. At 9:45, there will be a mandatory riders meeting where we will go over safety stuff, the route we're taking, and say a nice little prayer over the bikes and all the riders for the kick stands up at 10 a.m. Then at 12 p.m., the festivities kick off here at the club with bands throughout the whole day, put on by Zoo Factor, Lucy Lines, All-Star Jam. All throughout the day, we have a silent auction that begins at 1 o'clock. 3 o'clock, Happy Wednesdays on stage. At 5 o'clock, Vic fires up the barbecue, and we start feasting. And then Zoo Factor hits the stage at that time. We got a speaker coming up at 6:30. The silent auction closes at about 8:30. There's raffle, there's auction, there's going to be a dunk tank, there's fun, there's games, there's root beer floats, famous root beer floats, Johnny Pops, all sorts of stuff happens at the 2218 Ride for Recovery. Remember, admission wristbands are $20 in advance. You can come get them at the front desk. Reach out to me, any of the board members. Anyone can help you out with getting wristbands in advance. Or $25 day of the event. I will be doing the podcast from the St. Paul Harley in the morning and all day here at the show or at the event. So if you want to come be on the podcast, that's another something. Come on down, check it out, come be on the show. Anyone you want to hear on the show in the future, let me know. If you want to be on the show, let me know. If you have ideas for the show, let me know. Remember, it's an interactive show, so in the future, just remember, like Jalissa was killing it with questions and comments today. Everyone who checked in, Big Bro.
I didn't see any of them.
Everyone. Yeah, I wonder what feed you're on. You know what? I open up, there's like a total of 7 different feeds. One's YouTube, 3 are Facebook, and then if people, someone explained that if other people open it under their own feed and then they share it and someone goes to their feed, then they're watching on a different feed and blah, blah. Remember, you are in control of your life. You get to choose what you want to do with it. You heard John come in here and talk about like, hey, it doesn't work on the first try. Might not work on the 20th try. But the willingness to come give it another shot is the goal here. I just challenge you to be willing. Come give it a shot. If you're struggling, please reach out. Like, we understand mental health is real. And if no one's told you today, I will tell you, I love you. You're loved. You're worth the fight. Fight for yourself. Like, it's real out there, and we know it. You've heard enough people on the show talk about it. John, what are you grateful for, brother?
My recovery and God. I'm going to go with God because I've been working a lot on my spirituality the last couple of weeks, and I am extremely grateful for God because without God of my understanding, nothing I have or am grateful for in life right now would be possible.
We didn't even get to talk about higher power stuff with you. Looks like you're coming back. Dude, we spent the first hour and 20 minutes last week's show talking about people's higher power and their experience with it. Like, yeah, we got to get you back on to talk about that. So
I'm game.
Thank you, brother. Hey, I really appreciate you. Thank you for the last minute come through, and congratulations. Like, you're a miracle. I love you, dude. I really appreciate you. I really do, man.
Ditto, Timmy.
All right. And then with all them jabs and jibs and jobs, thank you, guys. Thank you, everyone. Happy St. Patrick's Day. Be safe out there. A lot of knuckleheads on the road tonight. Hopefully you're not one of them. Talk to you guys next. Oh, next week, we got Rick and Jesse back in the house from the 4-Step Workshop. I've got it scrolling around the bottom of the screen right now. They have their workshop every Wednesday at 6:30 in the auditorium. It's free. Come check it out. They've been doing it for like 20 years. They've had thousands upon thousands of sponsors come in with sponsees and doo-wop ditties coming in to do that. Come check it out. They'll be on the show next week. I think we're visiting step 3. All right. Hey, I love you.